Neo, go get me a glass of water, and on your way back, can you get me some of that crypto? It's like too easy for these things to start to happen. And actually, Neo, while I'm at work, can you monitor my stock trades and make sure?
We've had that sort of Neo for a long time.
This podcast contains the arguably witty banter of two friends, Skippy and Doogles, that like to debate about investing. The content is intended to be entertaining and for informational purposes only, not investment advice. You should do your own research and consult a financial professional before using any of the information in this podcast, and especially before investing.
Skippy and Doogles back after a long hiatus. As one of our good friends once said, shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to. I did get complaints that people seem lost. We take 1 week off, and the people out there are lost. Their commutes are silent, and they are sad. But we're back.
I mean, we've been grinding for years. We very rarely miss a week. And
that is true.
We did.
So we're almost wrapping up our 5th year of this pod, which is wild to think through. And I think we've probably taken 4 weeks off, maybe 5. It's something like a week a year. And that is a grind. We've been grinding out for y'all. So you're welcome, Guatemala.
I mean, the backstory is I had World Series tickets, and then I didn't have World Series tickets. I thought I had better things to do. But, we're back now, so let's celebrate that.
Yeah, that's right. Always hit us up with that listener mail, skippydoogles@gmail.com. Go to skippydoogles.com for all your Skippy Doogles needs. We have our socials on there. We got our email on there. We got premium subscription opportunities on there. Go check it out, skippydoogles.com. Today, we got 3 topics for y'all. We're going to start off talking about the Neo robot. The future is here, people. The Neo robot. And we're going to discuss the pros, I don't know. I'm going to put out a little maybe potential con, but you're going to call me a Luddite. It's going to be fine. Then we're going to go and discuss a piece put out by the Philadelphia Federal Reserve that looks at why some Americans are not investing in the stock market. They did a large survey to look at why people are not invested in the stock market, and then wrap it on up with some sports gambling. Neo. We're not talking about the Matrix, y'all. We are talking about a robot that is going to creep around your home, steal your belongings, and maybe clean up a glass or two.
Yeah.
Would you describe it differently?
It's a robot that looks like it's dressed in Allbirds shoes, but like its whole body.
It does. You nailed that one. You nailed that one.
There's 3 color combos. It kind of is wearing like this sweatery material, so it's not like a scary robot that's made out of metal, which I think they did really well on. It's like made of stretchy limbs, kind of. It's very humanoid looking. I think they did a pretty decent job on the design.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ears, and then these weird looking halo things that are 2 eyes, sorry. And then these weird looking halo things that are like ears-ish.
They're like Beats by Dre, but mashed into the face.
And then they have these little lights that do like the Alexa-based color indications of what's going on, right?
That's right.
Pitch is this thing costs $20,000, or you can rent it for $500 a month, which is hilarious to me. And this thing will show up. You can talk to it when you're lonely if you want. You can tell it to do the dishes. You can tell it to clean. You can program it on the app and say, listen, don't walk around my house at 3 a.m. because that's creepy. But if you want to do chores while I leave the house, like, by all means do it. So watch the video. It's 10 minutes. I think it's fascinating, and they did a really good job of portraying this thing as safe and additive to the home. But it's not that simple. Before I give you my downsides, just give me your reaction. What do you think of this thing? What is the possibility this thing might show up at your house?
It's not showing up at our house. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right on out there. I do agree with the points you stated, and I'll throw this out there. If someone was working on this, to build this has got to be a dream of a lifetime. Like the AI involved, the robotics involved. I was looking at the people that work at the company as they talked about the robot, and it seems like there's a lot of pride and a lot of fun, like intellectual fun that went into it. So more power to them. I also believe that this video portrayed potential owners as drunken, lazy, rich San Franciscans. Hear me out. So I'm going to go through each component of that. So if you watch the video, it's about 10 minutes long. You watch this video, there are numerous B-roll type shots of like someone rolling around the ground underneath the Golden Gate Bridge is the only way I can describe it. They're not straightforward shots. It's like someone's in some kind of tornado. So that's the drunken piece. The next thing I'll say is the folks that are in the video that are owning the robot. They drive up in their Porsche and pull up in front of their ridiculous home, which they've shown is in San Francisco. So you're like, this is at least a $20 million house that they have here. And they're wearing like all linen clothing, and they just plop upon the sofa. You're like, I haven't seen you work. All I've seen you do is roll around filming the Golden Gate Bridge, drive your Porsche in, and then sit on your couch.
Doogles, how dare they pick up a vacuum? I mean, they need a $20,000 robot to do this.
And after this long day of rolling around in San Francisco, they sit on the couch and like, Neo, please get me a glass of water, because they're so tired.
They can't even. My favorite is the guy that drinks the water can't even get up to put it in like the dishwasher. Yes. He has to call the robot to grab it from him. I think, all I'm going to say about that is San Francisco is one of my favorite cities in the world, but let's not pretend that the wealthiest folks in San Francisco are in touch. They are anything but in touch.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Okay, well, so I saw a venture capitalist put out like instant purchase. Like the video, he's like, I already bought the thing, right?
Of course, because he is that person.
He is that person. And I went, I'm intrigued. I mean, $500 a month, if the thing truly did all my cleaning around the house, not a bad deal. But I was like, I think this is a family conversation. I don't think think you have the robot show up on Amazon and just have it start walking around your house. I'll tell you, my family and I have discussed this. The one other thing I mentioned is since the release, there's been some buzz based on a Wall Street Journal breakdown that the brain, the AI, the intelligence of the thing is still very much under development. And a lot of the work that it can do today, it's not supposed to formally release commercially until 2026, is like it's someone on Zoom that logs into the robot and can activate the hands and actually like take your laundry from the washer to the dryer. That is much less appealing to me, right? I don't want a house cleaner 3 states over vacuuming. I want an actual robot vacuuming.
Yeah, and that means they're seeing into your house.
Yes.
I mean, this is spyware, is what you're telling me.
It's basically like it's an act of war. It's somebody that does not like America coming into our houses.
I mean, it makes sense. It's similar to the self-driving cars when you actually had humans driving them for a while, or at least in the car,
have to
right?
Build a
it makes
data
sense.
Set. Like, it
makes perfect sense. The other thing that I brought up, or that I'll bring up here, is the insurance costs. I believe the insurance cost for the company for these things has got to be pretty material. Because, and this is not a AI is going to go to war Terminator type of insurance. It's more that it's handling precious cargo around your home. The likelihood of it breaking glasses, breaking dishes, likelihood of it poisoning your dog when it goes to feed your dog feels not low to me, especially as it's learning. There are just a lot of stuff that can break or be murdered in the case of the dog situation. And I do feel like the company has got to take into account some kind of, like where Airbnb did their $1 million insurance policy after a bit, right? When they started getting some hosts that had parties at their house, there's probably got to be something like that ends up popping up to make people feel gooch.
Yeah. This is where I yell Luddite. I mean, who cares?
What are you talking about? Who cares?
If you want to be on the cutting edge of something, and I'm generally an early adopter in tech, like, come on, give it a try. If the thing sucks, I'll send it back because I'm only renting it for $500 a month. But the larger point here is fascinating, and there's a shout out I want to do with a new book, Breakneck by Dan Wang. It talks about U.S. versus China, basically, and says China is a society of engineers where they go build stuff and a lot of times run over their citizens to do it.
Yep.
And U.S. is a culture of attorneys where everything is, what's the insurance cost?
Yeah.
It's Doogles world. I don't care. I want a robot to do my dishes, dude. So it's going to break some dishes. I'll deal with it. I don't care. The larger point that I think is so interesting, because I was in Waymo's all last week, it's like there's the same argument happening there of people going, this is horrible. At some point, Waymo is going to kill someone, and what's the liability look like? That's true. In that case, the data is crystal clear that it's like 10 to
It's
100
safer.
times better than your average humans. So the progress is clearly, like, we should not hinder this. Earlier this week, I don't know how it ended up, but the city of Boston was potentially going to ban all self-driving cars out of protectionism. That is a horrible idea. More people will die with that approach than saying, let's find something that's order of magnitude safer and figure out how we deal with insurance and liability down the road. That's just
my insurance point is less about they shouldn't go after this because of insurance. It's more that, to what you were just bringing up, the capital that likely has to go into this to make sure it lasts for a while is pretty large. So in that case, you had ultra funded Uber, you had Apple, you had Google that were funding self-driving cars. So this is one of those cases, and others that end up getting acquired. So in this, like Waymo, I believe it was acquired by Google at some point. So in this case, it might be that Apple buys the Neo company, whatever the thing is called, and then ends up funding it. But I was just saying more so that's probably a material cost that will need to be funded upfront as you start to learn, not a reason not to do it.
okay.
That's it. That's what but that is what I think about. I mean, you're right that my brain maybe is even programmed to think that way. While I'm watching this thing handle the glass, I was like, oh my God, it's going to cut my child, right? This is the kind of thing I was thinking of, like, as I was watching this video. And also, I don't scream Luddite all day. I had to cancel my AOL plan this week because they just got acquired. So, like, that's where I am.
Serious. You're not
That's
serious.
where I am. No, so I did not do that. Although I didn't cancel AOL until like 2010. So just to be clear, but so you're gonna scream Luddite, but more so, I don't get excited. I get excited about some of the things that weren't portrayed in the video that the robot might be able to do. I don't get excited about the stuff that feels like we're turning more and more and more into a WALL-E society. Like, that actually doesn't get me excited. Like, stand up and go put your dish in the dishwasher. We have so many reasons already as humans to be lazy and, like, not do things that keep us from using our bodies that we were born with.
I don't know that we're going to get to topics 2 and 3. So one of the things I've really tried to do in the last 10 years, this is a much bigger topic, but I feel like it relates, is not judge how someone else spends their money or their time, because everyone's ideal life is different, and it's different than mine. And so to say that everyone else should put their dish in the dishwasher, sorry, I'm being pedantic about one specific thing.
That's fine.
It's like, no, some people want to go run a 10K every day, and then after they do that, they want someone else to put the dish in the dishwasher.
I'm stopping you right now. You have very specific view on life if you believe that the person that is, instead of putting the dish in the dishwasher, they're going to run a 10K. No,
the point is
no, hold on. The places where I see this could be very impactful, even just for that use case, is in accessibility use cases. Like, I love this. For folks that are less able to, or like need help already, where there's a human that's helping them to do everything from bathing to put their dishes in the dishwasher. Like, this is ultra powerful. Yeah. But you will never convince me that the person that is sitting on the couch and saying, take this dish, they're saying, take the dish because I'm about to go run a 10K. Like, that is like a 0 out of 8 billion.
It's at least a 1 out of 350 million, because I'd love to do that. But for the
you are, just to spite me, you're going to buy this and film yourself doing that exact use case. I know you.
I might buy the thing.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to say is everyone's ideal setup is slightly different.
That's true.
The value that people get out of this, we all have older parents, right? When you get middle-aged, you have older parents, and there's a demo in the video. Who knows if it's completely fabricated or not, that I found fascinating. It's an older gentleman, probably in his 60s or 70s. He is cooking and he misplaces his glasses, so he turns to the robot and he says, like, is this the right type of pepper?
Yeah.
The robot reads the label, tells him that it is not, and he's like, I'm sorry, I can't read it because I lost my glasses. And the robot says, actually, your glasses are hanging on your t-shirt. He finds them. That's amazing. If that comes true at all, if that's not fabricated, that is a very, very cool use case with a huge total addressable market.
And maybe I'm picking on the first quote unquote use case that they showed there, because the video set up for me, again, rich San Franciscan driving their Porsche up to their home that can't put the dish in the dishwasher. Like, that is what it initially set up for me. I agree with that point. I think that there's strong accessibility use cases. I think that healthcare will have amazing use cases for this. I think when you get to, and healthcare inclusive of, I don't know where this gentleman was, but inclusive of assisted living facilities and things like that, huge use cases, I think, for this. But it's the, Neo, please come open my door, please. Like that's sort of like, come on. Like, you can't even open your own Porsche door?
I never dreamed we were going to spend so much time breaking down this video. Their creative director is delighted. As you articulate that, I think it's very thoughtful, actually. They want the rich San Franciscan to buy the first model, because who else is going to buy the thing?
Exactly. 20 grand.
And then they want to prove the concept, and then they literally go to all the use cases you just talked about. And if the thing works at all, you just print money.
When I see next year, probably, I don't know when this is coming out exactly, sometime in the summer to fall, I'm going to go to San Francisco and just sit around to wait to see my first person riding on the back of a Neo or being carried by a Neo. That's what I want to watch while they're closing a deal. That's what I want to watch. All right, let's move on. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Reaching the fishbowl, we are going to our second topic, which is why some Americans don't invest in the stock market. This is a survey and then report put out by the Philadelphia Financial Reserve. The punchline of this whole thing as a headline is not particularly surprising, but I do think it's helpful to go into the specific elements in some of the data. I'll give you the punchline first so you can see the not surprising point. It is that a lot of people don't understand the stock market. That's what a lot of it comes down to. But the specifics are important, so we're going to dive into them. First, to lay out what the survey is, they asked 5,000 U.S. adults whether they personally own stocks. And this is different than other surveys you might see. So you'll see some of the numbers are also different. Generally speaking, according to this, I didn't realize this before, they said a lot of surveys, they ask, does anyone that you know or your household, like, do any family members own stocks? Like, different versions of those. And so the numbers can be a little bit higher, because if you say, does anyone in your family own stocks? That's a different question than do you personally own stocks? So what they found here was that 43% of people said they own stocks. 57% of people said they do not. That 43% is much lower than what you typically see after surveys like this. So that's one thing just to be clear about. All right. The overall reasons for not investing in the stock market. Number one, 45% of people said they don't have enough financial resources. That was the number one reason why people said that they do not invest. Number two is they don't understand the stock market. And number three is the stock market is too volatile or risky. That third was 20%. Third place was 20% there. That's the volatility. And first was 45%. And people could check all that apply, just so that you're clear on that. Okay. Anything surprising in there for you?
No, but I have some fixes, but we'll get there later.
There we go. Okay, so then what they did, so that was the overall, why don't you invest? Then what they did was they broke down the demographics of the respondents and looked at those from more underrepresented populations of non-investors and compared their answers for why they don't invest to those in more represented. So an example of underrepresented would be female. Example of represented would be male. And the same question was asked. What are the reasons that you don't own stocks? If you compare why the number of people between males and females that say they don't understand the stock market, it's much larger for females than males. So for females...
Hold on.
Yep.
Pause. Time out.
Yep.
A shout out to our female listeners. What I think is happening here is your average female is more likely to say they don't, more likely to be truthful here. I would argue males don't understand just as much, but there's a subset that are pretending to understand, which is the main driver of these survey results, not necessarily that there's a drastic misunderstanding between the two groups. I just have to say that.
Yeah, there's always some element of that. And they did a little test around that later in this piece too.
Good.
But there's always some, I'm glad you said that, because there's generally, males are generally like, I get anything. Ask me any question and I will give you an answer. ChatGPT is a male. I know that for this reason, because that thing will give me an answer no matter what I ask.
It never says I don't know.
Exactly.
It should.
Okay, so for don't understand the stock market, males, about 34% said that that's the reason. Females, about 43%. Material difference. Don't have enough financial resources, 46% of males said that's the reason. 44% of females said that's the reason. So just interesting in the don't understand component for that one. Next, they went down to college degree or not college degree. So same kind of thing. Don't understand the stock market. For those with a bachelor's or higher, 30% said that that's the reason. And 40% of those without a degree said that's the reason. So again, you get that don't understand as the material component. I'm going to skip down a little bit. For this one, for the stock market is too volatile. 24% of people with a bachelor's degree said that that's the reason, and 19% of those without. So that's a kind of an interesting one. Even more interesting for me was if you go further down, there's an option that says prefer lower risk options such as bonds or CDs. 12% of bachelor's folks said that, and non-degree, only 6%. I think part of that comes back to the don't understand. I think those things are related in my eyes, but there's also potentially a conservatism like aspect to that. So I found that to be interesting. It's a similar thing when they looked at white versus black, Hispanic, much higher percentage, 44% of black Hispanic folks said that not understanding was the reason, 35% for white. And white people were more likely to say it's because of financial resources, volatility, or they want lower risk options. So similar. All right. Now for what you brought up, let's jump down to what you brought up earlier. I'm going to give you a quiz. You ready? True or false?
I better not look at the results then.
No, don't. True or false? Buying a single company stock usually provides a safer return than a stock mutual fund.
Wait, this is how I think someone else would answer?
I'm asking you this. No, I'm asking you this question. True or false? Buying a single company stock usually provides a safer return than a stock mutual fund.
This is so much more complex. The answer they want is that a single stock is more risky.
So is that true? So false is what?
I forget how you worded it, but
yes, false. Okay. We can talk about the nuance of it. But yes, you're right. What they were looking for is that buying a single company stock is not usually safer. Like that. That's the point. Okay. So they asked everyone in this survey to answer that question. And they listed out based on it was male, female, white, black, Hispanic, college degree, non-college degree. How many people gave the correct answer, gave the incorrect answer, and said they don't know. That's the way they looked at this, which I think is it's not a perfect proxy by any means, but like it's pretty reasonable. So for males, 45% gave the correct answer, 15% gave the incorrect answer, and about 40% of people said, I don't know. For females, 34% gave the correct answer, 9% gave the incorrect answer, and 57% said, I don't know. When that plays out through the other groups they listed as well. So college degree folks, 57% gave the correct answer, 11% gave the incorrect answer, 30% said they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing. So it's interesting. It's kind of like I think this was 2 or 3 years ago when we were walking through on this pod, the financial literacy. So it was a financial literacy report, and it asked like 5 or 6 basic, like fairly basic questions to be able to gauge financial literacy. I think this is a decent-ish directional proxy, and it's interesting stuff. Knowledge is a big deal. And then to maybe your point then, confidence in that knowledge is a big deal.
There's 2 things I have to say. You always set me up for these.
I love it.
Okay, first is the nuance to my answer. Yes, 99% of people should buy ETFs or index funds holding a large basket of stocks. It's less risky. The diversification is good. But the reason that fires me up as a true or false question, and not for their purpose, it's fine. There are situations where you can find a single name with a decent business model sitting on $10 billion in cash, currently trading for $6 billion.
Yeah.
There are situations where a single stock is a probability of gain is significantly more likely than a basket of stocks. So I just have to say that because this is complicated stuff, but that's what your more expert investors are considering, and not something that's not someone who's in the survey. The other thing, man, there is a brilliant book that I believe everyone should read.
Ooh.
Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth.
Okay, yeah.
Does an incredible job of answering this question. A lot of people in this survey said the stock market is too volatile or risky, right? They think of risk as the turbulence of stock price going up and down in the short term.
Yep, that's right.
You know what's way riskier than holding stocks? holding cash for 30 years, right? Think about the best illustration of this is think about the price of stamps from your childhood to today. The price of stamps, they're not trying to get more purchasing power from the price of stamps. I don't know what a stamp costs today because it kept going up so quickly. They even took the price off the stamp. It's called a forever stamp now, right?
No, it's because your Neo robot goes and buys your stamps. So you have no idea how much they cost.
But in the 70s, the price of stamps was 8 cents. And then in 2000, it was 45 cents.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're just sitting on cash, you lost all that purchasing power. If you had that invested for those 30 years, your 7 cents, your 8 cents became worth 80 cents. And all of a sudden, you increase your purchasing power. So I'm sorry, but to think of this as too risky, it's just flat wrong. And it's unfortunate. I understand why people give that survey answer.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I can stand down. But
I agree with that point, and I think it can't be hammered in enough. It's related to the statistics we were given a couple weeks back when we were discussing how much media coverage there is on different causes for death versus actual causes for death, and how homicides are talked about all the time, but they are less than 1% of all deaths. What's covered? If you look at the same version of that in the financial industry, what you don't see on a daily basis, if you open up the Wall Street Journal and all it said was, over the last 20 years, stocks have returned on average 10%. We did it again, people. If that's all it said every day, first of all, there'd be no Wall Street Journal. But second of all, that's what people would be hit with. Instead, you open up, I'm picking on the Wall Street Journal. It's not, this has nothing to do with the Wall Street Journal specifically. Instead, you open up whatever your favorite financial periodical is, a Zero Hedge. You open this up, and you end up getting something that's close, $0 in revenue, up again, right? And you're oh, and then you open up the next day, and you're close somehow went out of business. We have no idea why. And you're oh, that's risky and volatile. But that's what gets clicks. That's what gets people excited. That's what gets a dopamine going, which is all that we really care about as humans. So I fully agree with your point and just had to hammer it home.
He's throwing shade at Zero Hedge, and I applaud that. Great work, Doogles. Sorry, one other thing. 45-ish% of people say, I don't have enough financial resources. I understand this. Mm-hmm. This is also not true. This is the human brain tricking you. Australia has a much better retirement situation than the United States of America, despite the fact that your average Australian makes less than your average American. Do you know why? Because in Australia, they automatically enroll and set aside 3% of your pay to fund your retirement. It's a national law. Most people never touch it because people are lazy, and all of a sudden end up with this huge pool of money 30 years later simply because the friction is reduced. I can guarantee that the majority, probably not the large majority, because I know some people are really penny per penny making it each week. The majority of people could use a banking solution to set aside 1% of the money that comes into their account. They wouldn't even notice the difference. And then when they got a pay raise, they could increase that to 2% and then go on. All of a sudden, they could have this money diverted to the side that they could invest that would make them incredibly wealthy 30 years later. It's just we're incredibly bad at setting that up in a frictionless way for people, and it should be fixed.
Agreed. And I think that we can use what I'm about to say as a transition into our sports gambling topic. So feel free to use it that way if you feel good about that. As I was reading about the sports gambling, reading about how everything today has basically become gambling because you can, in your Robinhood app, switch between crypto and GE and who's going to become the next president, right? All in the same app. As I'm reading about all this, there's a lot of pushback on regulation around things like this because they say it's American individualism. If you're an adult, you have the right to spend your money and lose your money any way that you want. Okay. Certain parts of Doogles says, yeah, I get that. Adults should be able to act as adults do. However, I also believe as a country, and this is how I relate it to your Australia piece, I think as a country, any country, your first order of business that is generally not going to be talked about as much, but your real first order of business is, will my country be around and thriving in the future as a full system? That's like the first thing. I think that as a country, you have to figure out. And so it's not about taking rights away from people or giving rights to people for the sake of the individual. It's sometimes saying like, oh, if we allow this to happen, everybody going to be broke. And so therefore, we can't as a system allow it.
I mean, I've said this before, and it just feels like within the past 20 years, the early 20s male, and I'm picking on males because I am male, without a fully developed prefrontal cortex has so many new ways to trip up that they didn't used to have. And as a society, I'm all for freedom, but it's like, guys, maybe there shouldn't be 10 things that you put in front of their face every day to go wrong. I mean, this is from the FT. We don't have to go into the details other than to say a market that just developed is doing $1 billion per week in betting volume for both. Is it Kalashi? I don't know how to say it.
I don't know, but something like that.
Something like that, and Polymarket, right? So These betting markets did not exist. I fully understand the argument to say this was all happening in the black market and it's better that it's out in public. Maybe some of that is true, but I can guarantee you new dollars are flowing to these future contracts betting platforms to the tune of, just on these two platforms, this isn't even about Robinhood or all the other markets, $2+ billion per week. And this is my point with I don't have enough resources to invest. People find stuff. A lot of people that are betting on sports on a daily or weekly basis, it's not like they got a pay raise and said, oh, that pay raise is my sports betting money. No, they carved out money from their current budget to put $10 or $100 here, there, or everywhere.
That's right.
It's tough. I don't like this.
No, it's so easy. Neo, go get me a glass of water, and on your way back, can you get me some dat crypto? Like this, it's like too easy for these things to start to happen. And actually, Neo, while I'm at work, can you monitor my stock trades and make sure?
We've had that sort of Neo for a long time.
Yeah, we have had that sort of Neo for a long time. And actually, while you just reminded me of something, I was just checking Polymarket and saw that people were betting on certain buzzwords that we were going to say during this very episode, and there are a few that we did not get in. Yeah. So I just want to throw out Kathy Wood, Jim Cramer, Arc Genomics before we wrap this whole thing up.
I mean, current Polymarket has odds for our next break at 3 months from now. So
yes,
what we're referring to here is Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, had an earnings call this week. And at the very end of the earnings call, he pulls up Polymarket, looks at all the bets that are available for words he will say during the earnings call, realizes he hasn't said 3 or 4 of them, reads them off so those bets hit, and ends the call. And I have thoughts. I don't know. Like, the main thought is this shows how dominant betting on all things is in culture. You could bet on if President Trump and President Xi shook hands or not. You can bet on how many seconds it would take them to shake hands. Like, how is this value add for society? It's transferring money from one party to another, because that's how the odds work, with the betting house always taking a fee. So, surprise, surprise, the betting house always wins. Good business for them. By the way, I got an off-market, Polymarket investing offering that I have to work through, because that's funny. But this just isn't good. And I think it's going to end really poorly, but I don't know how or when it won't end. There will be some sort of pullback is my prediction here.
It's got to be. Anything else on that?
It's a wrap. We're out of time. So if you want us to skip less episodes, it helps if you support the show. You can do that by going to skippydoogles.supercast.com. With that, you get premium episodes, which is just us talking about potential stock ideas we're digging into. You also get the show early. You get the show every Sunday instead of every Monday. And we love all that support. You get our year-end portfolio reviews, which obviously happen at year-end. Everything else for the show is skippydoogles.com. And listener mail is skippydoogles@gmail.com. We love breaking down listener mail. So when we stick our foot in our mouth, or if you're curious for additional breakdowns, holler there, and we'll do our best to squeeze it in. At PSA, just so people know, we get so much listener mail we can't talk about it all. We try and get to the really interesting stuff, and if you email a fair amount, we'll try and squeeze in a topic for you too.
Thank you, everybody.
Peace.